Is the artist here?
No, she lives on the vineyards.
The community cares about each other.
Welcome to our session this evening, part of Arts Night. Thank you for coming. This is a chance for you to learn about the people who lived here for 8,000 to 10,000 years. Okay, not the Europeans, but the people who really have cared for this land and continue to do so. And you'll have a chance very shortly to hear from the Sagamore of the Pokanoket tribe, who's sitting right next to me. William Guy, Winds of Thunder, and you want to give your own name? I always said
Po Wampy Neopog.
Po Wampy Neopog.
That's
Okay, and that's in the Algonquin language. That's the language you would have heard if you were here just prior to 400 years ago. All right. So, I'm Dave Weed. I have started a whole project 4 years ago called the Somes Heritage Area. And be sure you take some booklets up in front here and go online, and you can see all kinds of pages about the history of this area, including lots of videos. So I don't want to take up any more time. For the Sagamore, Winds of Thunder. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here tonight. I'm your last minute substitute. Historian wasn't able to make it. And we're here, because of this painting that was done by Ruth Majors, and of course she comes from Cape Cod. She lives in Martha's Vineyard. And this painting here is a picture of Nana Wanhot, who was the grand sachem of the Quabog Nipmuc Nation, here being greeted by the Massasoit Osamiquin. And he was a counselor to the Massasoit. But to give you a little history, this here is over here, this Warren Swansea line, Margaret's Rock, I believe it is, Margaret's Knoll, where the Wampanoags were believed to nurse Roger Williams back to health when he came into this area. And she did a beautiful drawing here. That knoll is up here, and these are the long houses and dugouts, and you see the warriors coming back with deer, so forth and so on. We don't call them, we call them dugouts. And these are long houses. There's some B2s here. The portrait, she also has done some, she also did the sign here at Burns Hill, at the Burns Hill Burial Ground. Did she do the drawing for that there also? And she just did a marvelous job depicting, the Quabog Grand Sachem. And Quabog, for those interested, is up in North Brookfield, West Brookfield, Brookfield, Mass. The Sturbridge village is up in that area. That's where Quabog country was, and the reason why he's visiting the Massasoit, because the Massasoit was married to his daughter. All right, and so and also the Massasoit was the acknowledged head of the Quabog Nipmuc Nation. So I would just start out. That's a little history about the picture, why she did this drawing here. But when the Pilgrims came to this country, they weren't the first to be here, of course. The first recorded expeditions to our ancestral realm would be by a Portuguese captain named Miguel Cordeiro in 1502. And then in 1524, Farazano came here, and he logged in his captain's log the coordinates of 41 degree 40 north, which put him right parallel to the seat of Philip, which is up there at the Heffereffer Museum. I don't know if you've ever been up there, but there's a lot of history in this area. This is where it all started. It didn't start on that other side. It started right here on this side. Well, it's true, because back then, this here, Soames was the home of the Pokanoket tribe. And when the English came to this country 100 years after Farazano, this is about 100 years later, it was the Massasoit Osamiquin who welcomed him to this country. and he signed the first peace treaty with them, which allowed everyone else to come over. That peace treaty, you know, because if you look at any map prior to the King Philip War, it will say right on it, all this area here is known as Poconoke country or King Philip country later. You know, but during the King Philip War, what happened is the colonial government outlawed the word Poconoke, and if you were male 14 years of age or older and you said you were Poconoke, they'd kill you on sight. So that's when they start calling us Wampanoag. But that is still on the books today. That law never was taken off the books. So that people did not go around saying they were Poconoke. But that mural in downtown Providence of an Indian princess, I don't know if you've seen it, it's on the building, it's about 3 stories high, downtown Providence. It's been in the paper, it's been on the news. That's Princess Redwing. She was the last chief of the tribe before me. So I'm a Sagamore, and that's as high as you can go in our tribe, because we took the title of Massasoit and we laid it to rest with our creator, and we said there'd be no more Sagamore in the Poconoke tribe, that the creator was going to be our Massasoit. So I'm a Sagamore, I'm over all the chiefs in this nation. When the Pilgrim came to this nation, this Poconoke this here was all described on any map as Poconoke country. All right, any map prior to the King Philip War, 1675, 1676, says right on it, Poconoke country, later King Philip country. And that's all the way down to Cape Cod, Martha's Vineyard Island, Elizabeth Island, Prudence Island, Patience Island, Newport, and one time Jamestown belonged to the Poconoke also, but that's the island of Canonicus now, and of course, it was after the Great Dying that hit our people in 1616 to 1619, the plague, where we went from a tribe of 3,000 warriors to under 300 warriors. So the Massasoit was still able, you know, after that plague hit our people, to be the Massasoit of the largest Indian nation, 60 tribes, bands, and clans, and our territories went all the way up to New York State. Because this is where the Nipmuc, the Quabog Nipmuc country was. So from Bristol, which was one of our primary villages, and of course, here in Warren was other, and then the Royal Burial Ground is right down here at Burrs Hill. That's a Royal Burial Ground. When the Massasoit died, he died in his wife's village up in Quabog, and they brought him back here to Burrs Hill to be buried. So you have to forgive me because I have these senior moments. Well, I'm my 79th year this year. That's why I'm passing all of this on to my grandchildren, you know. But basically, our territories went all the way up to New York State, to the Schaghticoke Falls, this side of the Hudson River. And it was during the King Philip Wars that, during the winter campaign, that Philip was up there with, I'm trying to think of the name of Connaught, who was the chief of the Narragansetts. He was one of their great chiefs. That was actually his cousin he was up there with. So when you talk about, you know, Canonicus, that island being Canonicus over there, Jamestown, they call out Canonicus. At one time that belonged to the Poconoke, but during that, after we lost all of our warriors, I guess he had to make some kind of concessions and conceded that land to Canonicus, all right, of the Narragansett. And Canonicus was actually, that was actually the Massasoit's uncle. So, see, they're all related. And the Pilgrims never figured this out. They thought they knew what they were talking about, but Mika, who was Osamequin's father, he was actually a Sagamore of the Narragansett tribe. So Osamequin was like a renegade, like Geronimo. And what he did was he broke off, and what we warred about was land. And he had amassed more land. And if you read the history, you'll see where Wamsutta, who was the next eldest son, who was the oldest son, when his father died, he became the Massasoit. And they called him up the Pilgrim and they poisoned him. Philip was the next eldest son, and he became the Massasoit, but he wasn't groomed to be the Massasoit. Warm Sutter was groomed to be the Massasoit. And that's why, I think it was last year, they made the statement that Philip was probably the greatest warrior chief of all time. Because this guy, he was like 24 years old when he became the head of this whole nation, all right? And so, and he, you know, he tried to bring his people together, but that proved to be too much because it was actually his people who betrayed him. You know, and this is how he was caught up here at Mount Hope, and he was killed there. And they beheaded him, and they quartered his body up there, and they gave his body to different chiefs that were in his nation. And of course, the Indians were very superstitious people. And you know, Osamequin, he did not believe in Christianity. And of course, Philip, he didn't either. His son, you know, he said, "Why should I worship your one God when I have 9?" You know, and so basically, they gave his hands into the different, and they actually ate his body because they felt that they would be stronger than he was. And so these are some of the things, these superstitions, you know, that they had at that time. But some of the first converts to Christianity come from my mother's family, the Simon line. So when I talk about Osamequin, that's my great-grandfather, 10th generation. Philip was my great-grandfather, 9th generation. And there's a person called Simeon Simon, and I wish I had a book. I didn't know I was coming, I just found out the last week. I was going to see you. But he's on the bicentennial coin in the town of Griswold, Connecticut. There's on one side is the seal of Griswold, and on the other side is Simeon Simon and George Washington. He was George Washington's hand-picked bodyguard. When George Washington came to Patchogue, Connecticut, to take over the revolutionary forces, he stopped there, and Simeon Simon, this is my 6th generation great-grandfather, was out there pinning all his men, and he called them in. He wanted to know who he was. And he showed them the star and the 7 crescents, which was all he had from his parents. To tell him who he was, he said, "I can't talk about my 9 because it's a closed book." Because if he said he was Pokanoket, he could be killed. So, but Simeon Simon was King Philip's great-grandson. So that's my line coming down, and that girl up there, and that on that mural there, downtown Providence, that's her great-grandfather 5 generations, mine 6 generation. So in order to be a chief in our tribe, you have to come from Philip's line, because he was the last Massasoit of the Pokanoket tribe. There's the Pokanoket Nation, where we have chiefs of all different lines. But in my tribe, I have chiefs from Philip's line, Anawan, who was the head Piney warrior for the Massasoit, and that's the man at Anawan Rock you hit over there in Seekonk area. And of course, he was married to the Massasoit's sister, so that's part of that was King Philip's uncle, all right. And he was the head Piney warrior for Osamequin, and then also for King Philip, and he was in his 80s when they killed him up there in Rehoboth. All right, and then I have also 4 minutes. I have a chief from Ames line, who was right over here in Lakeville area, and that was King Philip's sister. And I have a chief from Quantaquinna's line, who was Osamequin's brother. So I mean, I have chiefs from different lines, but there were chiefs in all of these different tribes in the nation, and so basically you had probably 50, 60 chiefs, over there, and of course you had Sagamores who would be over, different chiefs in his area, maybe 5, 6 tribes, things of this nature here. But the Massasoit is a title. It meant great leader, and he was the great leader of the Pokanoket Nation. So, too funny.
Questions?
Any questions?
Yeah.
Sure. I thought someone would have
I have a
said.
question. Is the artist still alive?
Oh, yes, yeah, Ruth, maybe she was here when, who was that, last month when we, she came down here with this?
Yeah, just last month. Yeah.
And when did we do the sign over there very soon?
Oh, that was back almost a year ago, yeah.
Was that, oh,
Well, it was last May,
last May, okay.
yeah.
All right, yeah, she's still alive. As a matter of fact, when she came down here, I don't know if you noticed this here, but the Massasoit, that's all wampum. You see that purple? That's all wampum on him. And that was, you know, the more important you were, the more wampum you had on you. So that was, you know, I know probably some of you go to the Foxwood, and they have a wampum card. I don't even go to Foxwood. I don't care for them. So I go there and have dinner, but I know they have wampum cards that you gain points, so forth and so on. But that was one of our means of bartering at that time.
Other questions?
Yes.
Do you know my blog about me,
Did I know who?
Oh. She said at her school there's a dog named Ruthie.
There's a dog in the group? Oh, okay, all right. Very good. Where do you go to school? Here in Warren? You know this area, when they say Solms, you know, don't forget, the Solms today is Barrington, Warren, and Bristol. But in the time of the Massasoit, Solms was Swansea, Rehoboth, Seacon. East Province was actually part of Seacon at that time. Barrington and Warren and Bristol, all of those towns were Solms in the time of the Massasoit. In 1748, Massachusetts ceded present-day Solms to Rhode Island. And so that's why we have a problem, because we were basically a Massachusetts-based tribe. At Mount Monadnock is where the King Philip Trail is. All right? Have you anyone been to Mount Monadnock in New Hampshire? Well, that's why the King Philip Trail is up there, because that was our territory. So our territories went all the way up there. A lot of these people, they talk about this Wampanoag area. And by the way, I don't refer to myself as Wampanoag. It's a term that means Easterner. That's a term that was reserved for the tribes that fought with Philip against the colonists. And you have tribes down the Cape that call themselves Wampanoag, and they were on the Cape to escape the war. So they don't have any business calling themselves Wampanoag. If you read the Massachusetts Archaeological Society, it will tell you that. It was ironic that there are tribes that identify themselves as Wampanoag, which is a term meant for the tribes that fought against the English with Philip. Right?
And that's a great introduction to some books over here, including
Okay.
Nat Philbrick, who, you want to say something
Yeah, I'll
about
jump in.
that?
I want to thank you so much. That was brilliant. Thank you. Thank you everyone for being here. Thanks for being here. It has been an absolute honor to exhibit this painting, and I will miss it when it goes. It is. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, we will circulate it to various libraries in the different towns. Eventually, its home will be at the George Hale Library. Okay?
Pretty incredible. The history is amazing. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lisa. I am the owner here at Kingfish Books. And we welcome you to come back on Sunday. We have Nathaniel Philbrick coming to do a book signing, so we're really excited about that. But again, thank you for being here. We've curated a very special selection of books here that will help you learn more about this area and its history. So feel free to flow through, check the books out, look at the painting, grab some cookies. And thank you again very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
Hello. Yeah.